PJ Net Live on Thursday night. Our Thursday evening guest at this time, 9:30 Eastern on the East Coast. JD Wininger. He's standing by in our green room. We have a background that you will want to see. Brand new. Got a bumper rolling. The chat room is waiting, so let's go to Studio 6 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, good evening and welcome to PJ Net Live with something new, if you will look behind me. And that is around the Cross W. JD Wininger, his brand is his brand. So we just got that. We're not really completely finished with it, but we got that. Just wanted to showcase it here. Welcome to all of you who have joined us in the PJ Net Live chat room. It is great to see you there. And we are looking forward to an evening with the man who is around the Cross W himself, wearing his logo on his shirt with his Remington in the corner. JD, how you doing tonight, brother?
Hey, good evening, Coach. I'm fighting frogs here. How about yourself?
Well, you know, I have been kind of waiting for that promo video that some people do prior to their show, and you just didn't do one. I figured you're just lazy, you're shy, you're no good, and you probably have an excuse.
Yes, sir. I got an excuse. I got to tell you, some days you realize it's a dog-eat-dog world, and this morning I was wearing milk-bone underwear. But if it could go wrong, it did this morning.
What happened?
Flat tire on the pickup truck and everything else. And about the time I said, okay, now I can get showered and get situated and make that little promo video for this evening, I look out back and I see an old crooked tail up on one of my Solear mama cows. And I go, uh-oh. So normally when they raise their tail, two things is going to happen. They're either going to go to the bathroom or they're going to have a baby. But when that tail gets all crooked, kind of bent up, like your finger, you're fixing to have a baby. And sure enough, so I went out there and delivered a beautiful little bull calf this afternoon, Coach.
How long
about 51 pounds.
How long does that take?
Oh, about hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
From start to finish, yes, sir.
Yeah. So, and I did see the picture of mama and baby, kind of walking out across the pasture there. So,
yes, sir. That was taken when little calf had just got up, walked around for about 5 minutes. She was about 30 minutes old, or he was about 30 minutes old when I took that video.
Well, they say if you take a calf and just put him up around your shoulders and carry him around and do that every day, you'll be able to pick that bull up when he's a full grown.
You just keep believing that, Coach. Maverick the bull, this guy's sire, is about 2,200 pounds.
Oh, well, yeah. What makes you think these shoulders won't carry that,
Yes, sir. He's but your man, as we say.
Well, they're maybe not a bull, but a donkey. You have heard the tale of the old man, the young man, and the donkey, have you not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll spare the audience. If you want to hear that, it's about a 10-minute story, but it is worth it, and there's a darn good point at the end of it. JD, I'm not a big reader of blogs, but I certainly read the blogs of the people who are kind enough to be our guests here. And yes. I read your blog, and I experienced grief, I experienced anger, and I experienced a heartwarming assurance too. Now, how can that be?
Well, sir, as we like to say here in Texas, that's a Jesus thing. Because that day in October when I sat in that conference room in Seymour, Connecticut, I felt exactly those same emotions, Coach. I felt such sadness and grief for this mama as she was telling us this story. I don't know how many times she's told this story, but just a week before, she's telling it to the Vice President, Mike Pence, over in D.C. So, how many times do you have to just rip your heart out telling the story of your daughter like that? Then I thought about how the Boko Haram or the ISIS West Africa, they like to call themselves these days, how those terrible thieves and terrorists and drug runners and things, how they did those children, and that got my ire up. That's when I want to go back to my Remington 700 action from 1,000 yards out. Yes, sir.
Is that what you shot?
And just start cleaning house.
That's a heck
Yes,
of
sir.
a gun.
The M24 weapon system is built on Remington 700 action. Yes, sir.
Well, when I was in high school, I studied ballistics. And you won't believe this. I mean, this is this would never happen today. My 8th grade science project was ballistics. So we went out to the baseball field. We filled up some 5-gallon buckets with water and with sand. And we had a 22, we had a 22 Magnum, and we had a 30-30. And we shot rounds. This was at school now. Shot rounds into those buckets, and then picked up, and got the projectile and showed how hollow points do this. And, can you imagine that happening in a school today?
No, sir, don't reckon.
Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen.
I remember in high school, you're talking about a bucket of water. Remember in high school, I was on the ROTC rifle team, and the M16 was a fairly new weapon in the U.S. arsenal at the time, but we were able to grab a few, and we went out to Peace River Park, or Peace Creek Park there in Lakeland. You probably remember that place, Coach. And we canoed and had a day, but out on the range, I took a gallon jug of water and filled it up, tossed it in the air, and just off the hip with an M16, and just watched the explosion. And people went, "How could that be? That's just a .223 round." Yes, sir. I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, it moves pretty quick.
Make quite an impact.
Yeah, but I did study the 700. And it's one of the flattest. It's one of the flattest ones out there. I mean, it's a lot of muscle behind a lot of lead, and I don't know what kind of recoil that thing's got, but it must be up there with a 50 cal.
No, not quite. Yes, sir. I've had the pleasure of shooting a Barrett 50, and
a Barrett?
There's a difference.
Yeah. That Barrett's a really nice weapon, and actually one of the weapons that very few people have heard of. They've got a shotgun that's got a Tommy gun type magazine. It's a circular disc shaped magazine, and it shoots 12 gauge.
Oh yeah, 12 gauge auto. Yeah.
They make those right down here in Perry, Florida, not too far down the road, but you can't get a tour of the place because they only sell them to the government.
Yeah.
But I was angry. It's funny, not funny, but it's odd. I think we've all probably heard the phrase Boko Haram or whatever it is. I just call them animals, but so it's on our consciousness. But here you are in the same room face to face with the mother of one of these children that have been abducted. That's different from seeing it on the news.
As the story started to unfold, Coach, I go, wait a minute, I remember hearing about that on the nightly news. It was just a quick little blurb, on the Dopsy girls, were kidnapped from the school. And then a week or so later, well, they were recovered, they were returned. And you think, everything is great. But here's the sad fact, and if I remember this number correctly, one of the gentlemen that was there, representing the missions there in Nigeria, said that of the 104 girls that were returned, only 3 of them have been able to return to their families. The rest of them are in a special facility where they're still trying to deal with the trauma of this kidnapping. That's almost a year and a half later, Coach. That's a terrible, terrible cost.
I want to just take Rambo over there and just clean up. I mean, I get very angry. And then I begin to question theologically, what kind of God do these people serve that would require people under threat of death or actual death to swear allegiance to a God? If you have to hold a gun to somebody's head to get them to swear allegiance, that's not really allegiance.
No,
What?
that's where I think the extremism of the Islam faith, and yes, I'm certain that it is a small subset of the Muslim religion. Uh, I don't want to get into the theological debates and things. I know I believe what I believe, and they're welcome to believe what they believe. But for a religion that bases itself on being peace, as the Muslim religion claims to be, and to perform these atrocities in the name of Islam is just bastardizing that term.
Mm-hmm.
That's not religion of any kind. That's a cult, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just vile, evil, wicked people. And I feel for them. I feel sorry for them in a way, Coach. Uh, but you have to stand up to evil. You have to fight evil. You can't just ignore it. And too often we just, well, let it be. We don't understand them and things. No, sir. Right is right. Decent is decent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't care what color or what race, what religion you are. Right is right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ain't, then you're going to be on the wrong side of this old cowboy.
Yeah. And at one point I saw in there that there was prayer, and that must have been an intense time. But if I remember,
Oh, yes,
you
sir.
actually prayed for the captors, not the captives.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That
sir.
must have been hard.
Uh,
I
it
would pray
was.
about them.
Well, Coach, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I didn't pray that my God bring the same sort of plagues that he brought upon Pharaoh upon their heads. Uh, I want to, I pray that my God will make life so miserable for Miss Leah's captors
Mm-hmm.
that just release, just go,
Mm-hmm.
please. We can't take any more of this. And if that takes the plagues and the locusts and the Passover deaths and everything else, so be it. Whatever it takes, break their spirit, break their desire to hold this young lady captive, Lord. That was part of my prayer. Yes, sir.
Gosh. Having this kind of faith in the face of death is not
Oh,
something new. I,
oh
I
no.
I'm trying to think. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
And Abednego, yes, sir. Even if and there's somebody else that posted about this today. Those simple two words in that story. Even if our God chooses not to save us from this fire,
Mm-hmm.
it is well with our soul. We know it's okay. And to have that kind of faith, Coach, how many of us really has that? Let me ask you, Coach, if I grabbed, of course, you're 1,100 miles from me, but if I pointed the muzzle of a loaded gun in your face and told you, say this or die, what would you do, Coach?
Well,
How much faith would you have to stand up to that kind of pressure?
first of all, I would point out that you too would require some faith because you would be looking at the business end of my 9 millimeter. So
You're
let's
right in.
start. Let's start there.
Yes, sir.
Uh, the, we all, I guess us alpha males, testosterone poisoning, we kind of, in our fantasies and in our daydreams and our imagine ourselves in heroic situations, and we're, the hero, the Rambo, the rescuer, and all that. But the truth is, none of us knows until it comes upon
No,
us.
sir.
And I've heard the phrase,
Exactly.
heroes are born of crisis, but I seldom hear, so are cowards.
Yes, sir. It's a very true statement. Until you are faced with that opportunity, you don't know what you're going to do, Coach. I remember the first time I was in combat, and I asked my old first sergeant. This is after the after action reports are completed and things. And I said, I kept hearing these little snaps or these little cracks. Sarge, what was that, Sergeant Major? he just kind of chuckled and he said, "Well, they were misses, boy." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, a bullet is supersonic.
Mm-hmm.
So what you were hearing was the sonic boom
Mm-hmm.
of that round." He said, "If you hear it, it's already past you.
Yeah,
So
you're
you're
alive.
safe."
Yeah, you're safe if you
Yeah,
hear it.
but
Yeah, yeah. You don't hear the
if you
muzzle
if you
report until you're dead. You know.
yes, sir. Yeah, you never hear it.
Yeah,
True enough.
yeah.
But
The,
until you faced that, until you faced your mortality, you don't know how you're going to react. And there's going to come a time. Now, and I try not to get real deep theologically here, Coach, but I'm a pre-tribulation rapture kind of a guy. I don't believe God is going to put me through the tribulation.
right.
He's going to bring me up to the clouds, and I'm going home forever. But during that tribulation, you don't take the mark of the beast, you're going to face a situation like that. And you know, either you do and you swear allegiance to the Antichrist, or you'll be beheaded. And you'll get the crown of life if you have to suffer that fate. But how many people will be true to their faith to the very end like that? And I can't imagine the strength, the courage that it took for a 14-year-old girl to do this, Coach. That was just mind blowing for me.
It's
She's
the kind of
scared.
thing.
She's alone. 5 of her classmates had been killed in days leading up to this. And this guy says, just, you know, claim allegiance to Islam and you can go home.
Mm-hmm. Just
No, I can't. I'm a Christian.
just
God
like
bless her.
yeah.
Yes,
If
sir.
I were a captor in, I'm trying to put myself in the head of this guy, this 14-year-old girl. I'd start to say, well, maybe I should think about the God you worship because that would have an impact on me. I would think. A sad state when we were growing up. It wasn't on my radar that under any circumstances. I mean, we read the stories in the Bible. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that prayed. Would not. It wasn't Samuel. It was
Elijah
no.
for 3.5 years to
No,
reign.
no, that
Oh,
faced death, and Daniel,
Daniel. I'm
in
sorry.
the
Okay.
lion's den.
Yeah.
Not only did he pray, he went to the window where he could be visibly seen. He was pretty
Yes.
smash mouth about it. I remember reading these stories and studying this as a youngster, but those were stories from a long time ago. But today, I mean, I can remember telling my daughter, the day may come when there's a knife to your throat.
Yes.
What are you going to do? I mean, we have to actually teach them this now in
And
real
that's
life.
sad.
It's not just a 2,000-year-old story. It's today. It's actually happening today. I'm not one of these end time fear mongers, but we're getting closer.
Yes, sir. There was a time, Coach, when terrorism and Islamic extremism and things like that was way over there.
Yeah.
That was on the other side of the world. We never had to worry about that. Tell that to the people in St. Paul, Minnesota, where there are Sharia law zones where the police and first responders won't even go anymore.
Yeah.
Coach, it's closer today than it's ever been. And we know who's behind it all. We understand that it's not a worldly mindset we're fighting, but it's a spiritual battle we're fighting.
It is.
And it's time to.
Cowboy up.
A great friend said it's time to armor up, and it's time to put on the full armor of God, and let's get ready to go do battle. If we don't, we are going to lose this nation, Coach. I firmly believe that.
We got about 1 minute left. Anything? Any high note we can end on? you gave birth
Well,
to
sir,
a bull today. Okay.
I just ask everybody, and I close with the same words that Mrs. Rebecca, Leah's mama, shared with me. Tunawa Leah. Remember Leah. Please, folks, in your prayers tonight, Think of Leah. Think of her captors. Think of her family. Bring them peace. Bring them comfort. Bring her strength and resolve to face the next day. I ask that you all join with me uh, daily for the next week at least, and let's pray for Leah Sharibu and her family every day for the next week. I believe it'll make a real difference. And I thank everyone for coming and listening in tonight, Coach. I'll come join the chat room here in a few minutes and answer any questions you guys have. I'll be up until I don't need to be. Fair enough?
All right. Thank you, JD. Can't wait
All
till
right.
next week.
Thank you,
Appreciate you
brother.
taking time with us tonight.
Yes, sir. God's bless.
Folks, that was JD Wininger from around the Cross W. And it is a real pleasure to have JD on board with the PJNet team. Now, tomorrow night, Hazards 4 will be running the show. Now, he does a special thing at 10 p.m. Eastern. And if you haven't seen his perspective and commentary, get ready, because it is worth staying up late for. I've started something yesterday that I want to continue, and I want this to be literally the legacy that I'm remembered by. As we close, I ask you two questions. What is the boldest thing you've ever done for Christ? And by the way, how long ago was that? Never be satisfied with either answer.